Hi everyone, this is Adam from Recreation Services, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about unilateral training, specifically leg training. So unilateral is training individual legs rather than both legs at the same time. We'll talk a little bit about how you might implement those, examples of exercises, and some of the benefits. Single leg training can take a lot out of you. It's fairly taxing, so a lot of people tend to avoid it when possible, but you need to look at it almost like a vegetable that you hate. It's not something you like, but it's something that you just need to do. So last week I talked about balance training and the importance of balance in just sports and everyday life and long-term health. The reason I wanted to talk about single leg training today is because that is one thing you can do to help improve your balance. So it's a little bit of an add-on from last week. So rather than the balance training itself, you're more doing this single leg training that'll help transfer and improve your balance. You'll also find single leg training has a good specificity towards sport and general activity as well as just everyday life. So you're moving around, you're walking up and down stairs, walking, running, all sorts of daily activities, whether it's sports or just moving around. You do need an element of single leg support and the balance that comes with that, as well as just the strength and control and proprioception. So a lot of single leg training transfers over to everyday activities you might go through. Doing a lot of single leg training will also help improve stability and motor control through your ankles, knees, and hips. So that'll make you more efficient in your movements, help prevent injury, and just help you have better proprioception and a better awareness of your movements and just better control through exercise or sport or anything like that. In terms of strength gain and how single leg training or unilateral training will help improve your strength, single leg training is really good at working on muscle imbalances. So when you're doing a squat or a deadlift or a leg press, you're using both legs at the same time, so you're able to kind of rely on your dominant leg to do a little extra work if it needs to, which can lead to bigger imbalances. There's always a little bit of an asymmetry, but doing bilateral work doesn't help to narrow that gap and can actually make it worse. So single leg training or unilateral training makes sure that both legs are doing equal work. So you're making sure that that imbalance doesn't get any bigger and hopefully gets a little smaller. So you're hopefully closing that gap between your dominant and non-dominant leg. Unilateral training is also good for strength gains and hypertrophy in the sense that you can isolate each leg individually and get extra fatigue and hopefully get a little more breakdown that can lead to increased gains. So you can get further exhaustion, which is really the key, especially for hypertrophy. So you can hopefully improve your gains that way. Depending on how you load your unilateral exercise, you might also be able to work on your rotary stability. So if you are, say, holding an offset or an off-center weight, so a half-racked position, the weight is going to want to tip you sideways, or if you're starting to bend over and say like a Romanian deadlift or a single leg Romanian deadlift, you'll have rotation through the core that you're trying to resist. So depending on how you load your unilateral exercise, you can also get a little bit of core workout at the same time, which will also help protect your back. Another way that unilateral exercises helps protect your back is when you're doing single leg exercise, you don't load as heavily. It reduces the axial load on your spine and all the connective tissues and muscles through your back. So your back gets less stressed through unilateral exercise and helps prevent wear and tear and injury through your back. And the last benefit of single leg training, more for an enjoyment of training, as much as you can enjoy single leg training, is just some variety. So it just gives you a whole list of modifications or different exercises that you can add to your repertoire and kind of keep things fresh, give you a little different stimulus a little bit, which is also really good for kind of bursting through plateaus and stuff like that. So it just gives you a little more variety, keep things fresh, and stress your body in different ways. So when you're looking to add unilateral leg exercises to your workout, you can do it in multiple different ways. A lot of times I like to use them as kind of a secondary exercise. So we'll start with the primary compounds, squats, front squats, deadlifts, things like that, and then throw in the unilateral exercises kind of at the end to just, make sure I get to the fatigue that I'm looking for. Another approach could be to do them first. So use them as almost a potentiation kind of exercise where you're just kind of waking your body up, waking up your muscles and getting ready for those heavy lifts. Obviously, the load needs to be taken into account. You don't want to totally fry yourself for your major movements, but they can be used as kind of a warm-up exercise. Or you can work them in as kind of a compound superset. So you can mix in, squats, supersetted with lunges, and kind of do a compound superset that way between a bilateral and a unilateral exercise. So lots of different approaches you can use, and that's another good way to kind of keep your body guessing and keep things fresh. Really depends on the purpose of it and how you want to use your unilateral exercise. But one of the big things when you are choosing a unilateral exercise is to make sure you select a weight that you can control properly. You don't want to go extra heavy and then run the risk of injury that way. So because it is a unilateral exercise and now there's a balance component, maybe a core component, and you're just using one leg instead of two, you do need to then bring down the weight appropriately depending on, if you have these rotary or balance components to worry about. So just make sure you consider all those challenges when you're selecting an appropriate weight. So now that we've talked a little bit about the benefits and how to implement unilateral training into a leg day, I want to kind of go over some of the main exercises you can work into your workout. So some of the standards would be a single leg Romanian deadlift rather than a regular Romanian deadlift or a hamstring curl. Any sort of lunge variation. So it can be a forward lunge, a reverse lunge, a side lunge. It can be a split squat. So rather than taking steps, you're holding into a fixed footing position and just dropping in and out of a split squat. You can go into single leg squats. So if you can do a pistol squat is great. Or you can do a single leg box squat or bench squat. That way you're coming down to the bench and coming back up. A step up is another very popular one. So 1 foot on the bench, 1 foot on the floor, and then stepping up. So both feet are kind of level to the bench or box, whichever you prefer. I like to do this from the side of a bench rather than forward. The big thing here to think about is not pushing off the floor with your other leg. So you're really trying to just use that 1 foot that's up on the bench or box, whatever you're using there. So you're really trying to isolate that one leg instead of kind of toeing off from the other foot. Bulgarian split squat is another variation of a lunge. That's another great one. A little bit of a challenge for the balance on that one, but a really, really good exercise. And lastly, another variation you can do is just taking a lot of your standard exercises, machine-based exercises in the ALC. When you're doing a leg press, turn it into a single leg press. Doing a leg extension, take away a foot, turn it into a single leg extension. Hamstring curl, same thing, single leg hamstring curl. All these machines can then easily be modified into a single leg exercise. Obviously, if you're machine-based, you don't get the same challenge in terms of balance, maybe core stability, but you are still isolating one side, so you'll still be working on those imbalances. So that's all for today. Make sure you start working in a little bit of a unilateral exercise and start working on those imbalances, improving that balance, and seeing some improved strength gains. Good luck.